Along with each and every season, comes with it a new bout of players that aren't content on their current teams. And even though players such as Vladimir Tarasenko and Vitaly Kravtsov were put out of their misery this deadline, there's still a few players that are desiring a change of scenery. In this video, we're going to go over a select number of disgruntled players. While a couple have formally submitted trade requests, the other are highly speculated to be open to switching teams. But before we get started, I'd like to give a quick thanks to my amazing patrons, Dom, Patrick K, and Hunter B. If you'd like monthly shoutouts from me, previews on upcoming videos, and a peek into my channel's analytics, join my Patreon today for those perks and more. Once you're on board, I will message you immediately welcoming you and give you a shout out just for joining. Link will be below for those who are interested. And with that, here are 4 NHL players who want to be traded. When Pierre-Luc Dubois made his way over to Winnipeg in 2021, the destination seemed to make sense. Basically, it was a swapping of one disgruntled player for another, as Patrik Laine went in the opposite direction to Ohio's capital. Laine needed somewhere to go, and Dubois did as well. Also, for Dubois, the incentive for the forward seemed to be the fact that his father was, and still is, coaching the AHL's Manitoba Moose. Anyways, it wasn't long after Dubois was given a change of scenery that his true intentions became evident. Around the time that the 2022 NHL entry draft was underway, it then became pretty much public information that Dubois was hell-bent on becoming a Hab. According to NHL insider Elliotte Friedman, Dubois informed GM Kevin Cheveldayoff that he would be going to Montreal as a UFA in 2024. Pierre-Luc Dubois has informed the Winnipeg Jets that his current plan is to test unrestricted free agency when eligible in the summer of 2024, Friedman says. Now, the Jets have control of the process until then, and what we're also hearing, though, is that they wish to keep him and have him as a Jet for a long time to come. Friedman was simply echoing what Dubois' agent, Pat Brisson, had said his client's wishes were, to be a Hab by the next year. And it wasn't long after those statements were made that Dubois re-upped with the Jets by agreeing to a 1-year extension valued at $6 million. Fast forward nearly a season's play later, and the Dubois chatter picked right back up here recently last month. Due to the fact that the Jets were and have been hanging on to a wildcard position, Winnipeg wasn't exactly receiving inquiries about what it would take to acquire the forward services. However, insiders such as Friedman and Pierre Lebrun have already been speculating that Dubois' desire to play in Quebec could become reality this offseason. According to an article from The Athletic, which I'll link below, the Habs did show genuine interest in Dubois last summer. Therefore, it does seem possible that GM Kent Hughes could try and recruit the Quebec native. If you were in tune with hockey happenings last summer, then you'll probably recall the headlines that came out claiming that goaltender John Gibson wanted out of Anaheim. Reason being, Sportsnet's own Nick Alberga made the claim on social media that Gibson was seeking a trade out of Orange County. And in response, Gibson's agent refuted the claims by saying, quote, "There's been no discussion on Gibson's desire to move. There's no truth to it." End quote. Now, when it comes to the business side of the game, oftentimes it resembles a chess match, meaning that there's more strategy to it than what appears on the surface. Even though, yes, Gibson himself said, quote, "No, I want to win in Anaheim, I've been here, and I'm happy to be here," end quote. For one, we know that this was said nearly a year ago, in June of last year. And second, again, sometimes agents want their players to seem harder to win over because they'll have more leverage in the end. However, this isn't to say that Gibson, with 100% certainty, wants to be moved. But for most players in his position, it would be tempting not to at least consider a change. After making strides in the right direction last season, the Ducks basically fell off a cliff thereafter. At 29 years of age, Gibson is nearing the end of his prime. Currently, close to the midway point of his 8-year, $51.2 million deal, the goaltender has a modified no-trade clause built into the contract, meaning that if he is indeed moved, he'll be able to submit a 10-team no-trade list. Around 2 weeks ago, reports began surfacing that longtime Caps forward Evgeny Kuznetsov was wanting out of the nation's capital. Drafted by Washington in 2010, Kuznetsov has been an integral piece for years, but has been lacking in the scoring department as of late. Due to reports out of Russia, it became known that Kuznetsov's agent had allegedly asked that his client be dealt elsewhere. Interestingly, the article states that this isn't the first time that an official trade request has been submitted. Back in 2021, the first attempt at getting Kuznetsov moved was apparently unsuccessful, prompting the second go-around. According to insider Tariq El-Bashir from The Athletic, Caps management was and has been disappointed in Kuznetsov for his performance this season. And due to this and broken trust, there's been a sizable rift between the player and his team. After having a breakout season throughout the 2021-2022 campaign, Kuznetsov was able to impress by recording nearly a point per game with 78 in 79 games played. Unfortunately, though, he wasn't exactly able to replicate the same success this season. Following 81 games played, the forward was only able to notch a measly 55 points throughout. As far as the Capitals are concerned, this off-season would be the perfect time to rid themselves of the contract. Since Kuznetsov is set to earn $8 million for the next 2 seasons, knowing that he'll probably be producing under market value, a trade or buyout could be on the horizon. And to make this story even more juicy, when approached with the request headlines, Kuznetsov tried to ward off suspicion that he might want out. You know how this is, it's just people trying to put whatever they want to get likes on Instagram or Twitter, whatever. I talked to those people. I said, where did this come from? There is something we can talk about later, probably for sure, but at this point, there's nothing to even talk about, he says. Regardless, what we can say is that having to face your teammates every day with them thinking that you don't want to be there wouldn't be easy. And even more damning information came out from insider Pierre Lebrun, who said, "What I'm hearing is that it's starting to, at some level, irritate some members of the Caps organization. As far as I believe, Washington is perhaps willing to listen to trade offers for Kuznetsov this offseason. If he is indeed relocating this offseason, Kuznetsov will have some control over where he ends up, as he currently has a modified no-trade clause in place that would allow for a 10-team no-trade list to be submitted upon a trade." In case you didn't catch it, last offseason I made a video discussing the amount of players that the Winnipeg Jets had lost over the years, and reasons for it happening. However, due to the fact that at the time, Logan Stanley seemed to be content in Manitoba, we didn't address the defenseman's fallout with his current club. Recently, Bally Sports' own Andy Strickland made it known that Stanley had formally submitted a trade request in hopes that he be traded at the trade deadline. But as we all know, despite his wishes, Stanley wasn't traded last month. This leaves many to logically believe that he could be moved this summer. At 24 years of age, Stanley hasn't exactly impressed long-term at this stage of his career. Head coach Rick Bowness made the decision to scratch the blue liner on multiple occasions. And when he was in the lineup, Stanley found himself receiving less than 14 minutes of ice time. If we look back to the season before, he was given much more opportunity, as he had 58 games played. And fast forward a bit, and Stanley is playing in around only 1/4 potential games on the season. Therefore, it doesn't take a genius here to figure out as to why he would want to change his scenery. One thing he does have going for him, though, is his modest contract that is only set to have a remaining cap hit of $900,000 next campaign. If the Winnipeg Jets are interested in putting the defenseman out of his misery, the move wouldn't cost them a first-rounder by any means. In conclusion, it'll be interesting to see what happens with each player featured in the video, and where they may end up. Again, if you'd like to receive insight analytics and video previews days in advance, head on over to my Patreon page to get started. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you for watching.